fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, see. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah!
Hey ho, Coolest Geeks, it's Jesse Blaze Snyder here at the Coolest Geek Live. And of course, that is my pledge to you to be fucking awesome as not just a human being, but as a geek culture commentator, as a professional in the geek culture space, as a professional writer and publisher. I really do. I just spend my week absorbing information all the time. It's funny, and sometimes, I'm not big on minutia. So, if I understand the basic concepts of what are going on, I'm not necessarily always digging deep into stuff because there's other things that are important to learn. I'm doing a lot of Esther Hicks and Dolores Cannon right now. Esther Hicks, she is a channeler, which might sound like bullshit to a lot of you guys, but go listen to her information. And the information just is all revolving around manifestation and getting your mind right in terms of bringing forth the reality that you want. Because yes, the physical reality is real, but the mental reality is just as real, and everything is mutable. It's sort of like what you focus on, you achieve, and when you put your mind to the side for a second, like all of a sudden the things that you have come into view. And I'm building a publishing company and all this stuff right now, and so I have a lot of this on my mind. But I'm just always absorbing information, and I really believe that if you're a writer and you want to be any good, it behooves you to just be constantly doing that, just in general, and then specifically for things that you work on. There are the things that I realize there are some things that I don't necessarily research. I'm not researching gun magazines and ammo clips and stuff like that, but I'm usually researching concepts. Like I think I mentioned in a previous episode, I did a book for Come On Studios. They have a property called The Others, and it all revolves around the 7 sins. And I just really wanted to understand the biblical significance of sin, because the 7 sins are actually created separately from it. These are things that I learned as I investigated. And I actually had looked at sins before because I did a book called Strangeland 7 Sins years ago, and I kind of was reminding myself of a lot of information. But I dug into it a lot deeper because this book was just all about these, creatures that were revolving around sin. So, if I'm going to be writing about that, I should be the person who knows the most about it, honestly. I mean, that's just what I believe. I don't think you should ever be working from your well of information unless you happen to be really deep in the subject matter that you're writing about. We often have to just mold ourselves into that person. And seriously, if you're going to be a professional writer, especially in the day of fucking AI, dude, learn shit in the world for real, because the AI is only going to know what they teach it, and they are teaching it a very limited spectrum of things, and there's so many more things in the world. So don't be afraid to go and study these esoteric things like laws of attraction and stuff like that. I'm going to eventually do a spiritual show podcast. I'm still developing what exactly it'll be. I've done some stuff in the past, but I love talking about that stuff because it's so cool. I got into writing fantasy and fiction and stuff like that because I thought that's all there was. And if I knew how much more there was to really be discovered, because we have our paradigms in American science so wrong, I'm sure in the upper echelons of our science, we are not making the mistakes that are written in my textbooks. But and really just that we're ignoring dimensions that are important to our reality, and there's a lot more going on around us and in the world than we're giving the world credit for. And I used to study things like this by virtue of enjoying fantasy subject and wanting to, sort of be able to base it on something and what do people believe kind of thing. And you would find out certain things. And I always kind of just was all right, that's a nice thing to believe kind of thing. And then eventually I came to understand that so much of the things that I was basing these things on and I understood were really conceptually sound, because there's this added dimension beyond this 3D. There's this esoteric world. And if you're going to write fiction and science fiction, oh boy, is it worthwhile looking into that kind of stuff and at least being open to it. And I was open to looking into it as concepts, but I was disregarding it. So you can do that, look into it as concepts and completely disregard it. But yeah, I've come to realize that there's definitely a lot more to so much of that stuff than meets the eye, and it's a lovely journey of discovery. Finding out how many people are so much smarter than you and got the scent of this truth way sooner and years sooner, and how many books there really are to be found on very interesting subjects all across the board. And then you take that stuff and you get to put it into your work, and you're not just writing G.I. Joes bashing against each other, which can be fun, especially when done at a really high level. I enjoy G.I. Joes bashing against each other, but there are far more interesting concepts to explore within fiction and the world outside your window, and you may have to rely on a lot of first-hand accounts, but start digging into personal accounts of ghost stories and personal accounts of Bigfoot, and there's really just a plethora of subjects that are juicy and interesting and will give you so many great things to write about that are based on other people's things. And then, you go in there and you get to perfect your craft by having a little baseline story or a concept that you want to get across. And it's so great. There's so many things that I have that I really want to do that are based on some small little thing that I learned about in the world. And even like something like simpler as there's a great show that I did a long time ago called it wasn't Trashopolis. It was I used to work for Smithsonian Channel, and I was one of their narrators. I was like their youthful voice narrator, and I did a show called Museum Secrets. And Museum Secrets was like go around the museum, and it would highlight certain objects. And this one object, I forget what the freaking object was because it was neither here nor there to whatever, but basically it was linked to this story of the harem, where they had like the women. They used to kill all of the people who were heirs to the throne, like Benji is king. Kill every descendant he has, every male descendant he has, so that they don't try to kill him and take power. And but the people really didn't like that practice because oftentimes some of these people were really nice people who never would have tried, and things could have been perfectly reasonable, and mothers are crying and people are sad. So instead what they would do is they would line them up and they would march them into these prisons in the back of the harem. And there was this one kid who was marched in there. I want to say at least at the oldest he was is 6, but maybe as young as 3 or something. And he's marched into the harem, the back of the harem, and he lives his life in the harem, I guess with some older uncles next to him in other cells, but as a little kid just stuck in this cell forever. And one day the doors open up and they tell him he's the new sultan. And I was just like, wow, that's just such an interesting story. This dude, he was literally raised in a prison cell by himself, locked up, and now he's given all the power in the world. And then he goes crazy and he dies afterwards. The story was like he was crazy. He was the mad sultan. But honestly, hearing the story told to me passed by, because history is written by the victors. I'm just like, man, this lady who was ruling next to him, she was the Cersei of this time, and she planned this. She's like, I'm gonna give power to this little kid who doesn't know anything, and then he's gonna run the kingdom into the ground, and they'll be glad I killed him, or I'll poison his coffee and make him go crazy. Anyway, when you start to just educate yourself, and sometimes it'll be about random shit, you'll get inspired. And I still to this day, I would love to write a graphic novel of the Mad Sultan. I think it's a really cool story, and I think I could make it really dramatic and just neat. And I just love that it's historical. So so much of it is really real. I love you, and I know every single time I try to say that this Coolest Geek Alive thing isn't some boast on my part, I'm gonna talk about it for fucking 10 minutes. But that's just me trying to make sure that my people who listen to me know that I am here for you. I am about you, and I really want to have you be the most educated people in pop culture. You know, my buddy on WDW Pro on YouTube, he says that all the time. And, you know, WDW Pro, he's very savvy, and he has people like me on his show, and others that are very savvy, and you know, but there's definitely a next level to people who are commenting on the thing, which is the people who are doing the thing, and the people who are doing the thing on a merchant level. And if you're doing both, you're creatively working in the world, and you're also trying to work in the world as a business in the geek culture world, you really just have a much better understanding of everything that's going on, and always know what's going on, because you're looking at it from not just that, ooh, I love this standpoint, and I'm going to work in this, I'm going to do this, but like financial standpoint of like, how do we make this shit work for us so we can feed our families? So, you know, it really like gets very real for people like me when the sky is falling and Marvel Comics is falling apart and DC is falling apart and all these geek culture brands are being tanked in television and film, because I love this world. I believe in this world. I was one of the people who, you know, from my youth tried to raise comics up and geek culture stuff up in awareness, because I really believe it has so much to offer us. I still believe it has so much to offer us. And I think that the rise of Marvel Studios and all this geek culture stuff really failed at actually scaling up the comics and the role-playing games and all the things that that I care about, because it tried to morph us into them. It abandoned the geek culture foundations, and it just tried to take on this new popular audience and go, oh, we're popular kids now, kind of thing. And let me tell you, the popular kids, they're taking their cues from people like us when it comes to this sorts of thing. You know, I mean, honestly, I say this all the time, but everybody's got a friend who they reach out to when they want to hear how that new Scorsese movie was or whatever else. Like I trust his opinion, whatever it might be. You know, there's somebody who you reach out to for a certain thing because you're not the expert on it. And that thing trickles up, you know, from the moment they announce stuff. You know, the moment they announced the Marvels, dude, the biggest, we were hopeful about so many things, but the fandom went, well, that's going to fucking sink like a Led Zeppelin. I mean, just, we could have told you that movie was not going to be a success. I mean, we did. So many people told you. So many people said. We knew that immediately. And that's the beginning of it. The things get talked about. And the people like me, we hear the announcement basically first because we care. There's a relatively small contingent of people who hear the announcement first who care so much. But we're the ones. We get excited, tell other people the things we're excited about. We get not excited. We go tell our friends how not excited we are. Generally speaking, the energy of the thousands of people who saw your initial announcement or whatever, and maybe it's hundreds of thousands, maybe it's a million, but the energy of those people goes out, and if it's sour, it's sour. And the energy does not build from there unless you really start to change everybody's mind. But I really believe and am convinced that it always starts with those foundational people, because until you convince us, it's just like, it's like silly. You know, it's so disappointing, the state of something like Star Wars right now, where, you know, friends like my friend Aaron Sparrow, you know, he's a lifelong Star Wars person. Star Wars has always been his thing. And I got into Star Wars a little bit late in the game because of people like Aaron. And Aaron's not the only one who was a big Star Wars fan, and I wanted to enjoy it with my friends. And I really liked Rogue One, and I still love Andor. But oh my God, I'm done with everything else myself. And when I would go back to Aaron to whatever, well, Aaron's not into it anymore. Well, if Aaron's not into it anymore, I'm not into it anymore. I follow wrestling a little bit, but I don't really love wrestling like a lot of my friends do. And I follow wrestling because my friends like it. When they stop doing wrestling, like, I stopped doing wrestling. You know what I'm saying? It's really that's how it goes. It's so simple. And because we are the people who are the consumers, you know, we buy the action figures, we buy the statues. You know, I don't know about you, I had a huge collection of Bowen's busts. If you're a statue person and you want to take a look at some great freaking statues, all the things that Bowen Design Studios put out back in the day are amazing. I had a whole bunch of full-size statues of his and a ton of busts. It was basically all the ones I had, although I did also have some Alex Ross heads. I had gotten an Alex Ross head from my dad. I got him the Hulk head at some point. I think I got him the Thing head too, but I don't know where the hell that is. Maybe he didn't like how it looked and he disappeared it. But I mean, this is the thing. I'm a consumer of this stuff. I love this stuff. And that's I get the independent action figure waves and all the various waves of different. I mean, I'm a 6-inch action figure collector. I've been building my business, so I haven't been putting a lot of money into my collection. Largely, all my stuff are hand me down since my fire, because I had 2 fires that lost my collection, and my great friend Aaron Sparrow and others have gifted me lots of toys, but I barely bought anything in a while. But still, I'm looking in all the aisles and just always checking out everything that's going on, because I'm a consumer and I want to see what's out and know for the future, and I have lists on my phone of things that I'd like to go pick up when I free up a little bit of money, and I don't feel like I can spoil myself. If that's who you are and you're really in this and you're building a business in the world or have a business in the world, you just have everything so much more at stake, and you look for the right information and you care about the right information. When you're not, you are moved around by the fucking promotional arm of all these companies. They do so many tricky things. They really, really do. They will buy out theaters, and they will hold reviews until the last possible moment, depending on various things. They'll let people see the movies, but there'll be an embargo. If they believe in the movie, they'll let people see the movie and let people start talking about it. There's a lot of easy ways to read how studios feel about these pictures, and then they do much deeper things than that. They pre-launch campaigns. They pre-prepare their actors, like the lady who plays, is Riva is her name? Or the character's name on what is it? The one she was on. I barely watched this show. I didn't like this one. Anyway, she's a black actress, and it was they went out of their way to prepare her. It came out as a note that they warned her ahead of time that there would be this racist backlash, and there's a lot of I don't really think there's actually that many real what we think of as racists in the world. I think there's a lot of idiots who don't really care about hurting people's feelings, and it's really an easy thing to say to piss people off and get a reaction out of people. That's what I think is largely going on. And sure, there's a little contingent of that, but I mean, this backlash that they keep pointing to, when you really go look, and there's a lot of YouTubers who go like show us the receipts. We went through the comments, we looked at the hashtags, we scour Twitter, we can't find any comments that really depict the sort of vitriol that you're talking about. And yes, there can be direct messages, and who knows what sort of crazy people, but they always direct this at the fandom, and and it's really been a big mistake for them, because they've been pissing off the people who pay their bills. And they're like our stuff, and at the same time, like this shit we shoved in your mouth. It's a recipe for fucking disaster. Not listening to your fans, and then getting your fans down to a place where they just don't give a shit anymore. And that's where things are going with the Marvels right now. I mean the Marvels, with Marvel Studios in general. I had a big episode this week on Wednesday where I was super hopeful and shit, and I was just talking about all of the possibilities that come from the end of this Loki show, and what could be done, how cool so many things could be. And I am hopeful, but I was so hopeful for Doctor Strange 2, and that movie was so fucking disappointing for me on so many levels. There were so many things they could have done, and it's just easy layups, and now they have a whole bunch of easy layups in front of them again, and I don't trust them anymore to get it right. I really don't. I think I'm going to do an episode on it soon, but they need to bring back the Marvel Brain Trust, because
I had a list of my favorite Marvel films in my notebook. I wrote them all down. It was years ago. It was basically wrapping up the end of Phase 3 before Phase 4 and 5 hit and all these TV shows started coming out and stuff. And I saw it the other day and I was like, oh, wow. I wonder where all these other movies stack up for me and these other TV shows stack up for me on my list. So I adjusted my list ever so slightly. There's a few things of just like over time, have come to piss me off a little bit more, or I had like nuanced feelings over time. I was really vibing on it or vibing on it less, kind of thing. But I was, I don't know. I was pretty surprised how little the thing. The new movies and TV shows dented the top 20. In the top 20, there's only one in the top 10, and did I maybe somehow, is it like counted wrong here? I gotta fix my list. I think I got I'm missing number 10 on my list here. Okay, cool. Now it should be fixed. So there's only one in the top 10 from Phase 4 and 5. And there's only two more in the top 20 from Phase 4 and 5. And probably not the ones that anybody would immediately think about either. Things don't really become a factor for me until we get into the going up to 30. And then, of course, into the 30s. And, on this list, there is 46 things. And I guess I'll say ahead of time, I have not ranked the dozen or so shows that I haven't seen, which includes Miss Marvel, which I heard is good. And I've actually thought about watching it a couple times, but I just don't really care. It doesn't. I don't really care about the Captain Marvel character. So like a character that is obsessed with Captain Marvel, it's like, of course, like why do we care about her? Even though the girl seems cute and like her family seems cute. Like that's the one part of the Marvels that I was like interested in. I'm a family man. I appreciate a little girl and her family and trying to honor your family and all this stuff. So like I'm interested in that one, but I've never seen it. I also didn't watch Secret Invasion to save myself. I'm not planning on watching the Marvels, or I guess I should say I haven't watched the Marvels yet to spare myself. I think I started watching Runaways, which was one of the shows on maybe Hulu, but I don't even remember it. I only watched a few episodes. It was okay. It was pretty good, but like I don't remember it well enough to rank it anywhere, because maybe it deserves a better spot on this list, so I just decided to not rank it at all. Also, I never saw Hellstrom. I don't know even where that came out. I never saw the Fox-produced The Gifted or Legion, and Legion I heard was really good, and I think maybe I heard The Gifted was pretty good too, but I never saw those. Because I'm including, Marvel TV, it has to be ranked against something, so I'm including it against the Netflix TV and the other TV shows that were made by Marvel Studios that I saw. And I didn't see a lot of them because a lot of them didn't really super appeal to me. Also, I didn't see Cloak and Dagger. Didn't see Agent Carter. Maybe I watched an episode. I don't know. I adore that lady. She's awesome and all, but Agent Carter's not a character I'm super interested in. I didn't watch Iron Fist because I have an Iron Fist sigil tattooed on my chest, and I heard it was awful, and I did not want to damage my feelings about Iron Fist because I really like Iron Fist. There's some great Iron Fist comic books. Some homework for you is to go check out some of the great ones. I think Ed Brubaker wrote a lot of the ones that I really enjoyed. There's a few people who wrote some that are critically acclaimed if you go look it up, but definitely Ed wrote some really good kung fu stuff. It's fun. Also, because I got to the point where I was really bored by Luke Cage. I've always had a vision of Luke Cage that is really badass and that he could be so freaking cool. And I'm constantly disappointed by people's depiction of him. I just think they do a bad job. And I think he's like an important black character. He doesn't have black in his name. Power Man is his name. And like I've always wanted to pitch Marvel on making him a more like a Superman figure in the Marvel Universe in New York City, and leaping tall buildings in a single bound, and basically like he realizes that when he works out, he really like gets strong, like the it's like insane, and he becomes like this Superman character, and now he's really just next level hero in the Marvel universe. I think that is cool. When they started talking about upgrading certain ethnic characters or female characters or whatnot, immediately I was just like, Luke Cage, man. But Marvel has never really been able to do anything with him great. They've done some good stuff with him, but nothing awesome. Or just like for me, I've always seen so much potential in that character. Just the simple thing of he's bulletproof is just so cool. So yeah, but I was really bored by the Luke Cage show, and after I didn't watch Iron Fist, I felt like, well, I haven't watched the rest of the universe, so I don't know if I'm gonna watch Defenders. I don't know if I'm gonna watch Punisher. And I didn't. So I didn't see those guys. So they're not on the list. But obviously, I watched everything from Marvel Studios except for Miss Marvel: Secret Invasion of the Marvels, and there's just a bunch of like some of their little side TV shows that I haven't watched. So anyway, that's me preparing you for where this list is coming from. I'll start with my top 5, which is unchanged by Marvel Phase 4 and 5. My top 5, and I'm sure everybody's got a different top 5. This is my top 5. I got to imagine these are probably in your top 5. My top 5 is number 1, Iron Man. Dude, I just, like, for me, just that cemented the Marvel Universe. They actually were able to really honor the source material and at the same time elevate the character by choosing someone who really embodied what the character was supposed to be, but brought an additional personality to it that the character never really enjoyed in the comic books. It did a great job of condensing years of continuity and taking the most exciting parts and just boom, just shrunk it into everything, and I adore that movie. So that's my favorite. Second, I've got Avengers Endgame. It's the crescendo to the whole thing on so many levels. It's so wonderful. Number 3, I have the Avengers, which was the initial crescendo to the initial promise of Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, which sucked. We'll get to that. It's down on the list. It's down on the list. And I told you, right, we have 46 things on this list. So Iron Man, Endgame, the Avengers, and then number 4, I have Captain America: Winter Soldier. I think Captain America: Winter Soldier is really great, really done well. So much of why Captain America: Civil War is so great is because Captain America: Winter Soldier was done so well. I would still say that it was done better in the comic books, and I recommend those. The Winter Soldier storyline, also by Ed Brubaker, by happenstance, coincidence. Awesome books, worth reading. And at number 5 for me, I have the Daredevil Netflix series, which I really liked. I wish that it had gone just a little further in the superhero direction, but I'm okay with it keeping itself grounded as it builds. But then it stopped at season 3, and I was so bummed out because we were just like starting to introduce Bullseye, and I was getting excited about it, and then but it was really great. I enjoyed the fuck out of it. To a certain degree, I feel like maybe I might have it higher up on my list out of like peer pressure, because I've heard from so many people who love it so much, and I kind of like to honor like other people's opinions. But I really do love that one too myself, and definitely do think it deserves high praise. So I mean, so much of this is like so subjective, but overall, you'll get the gist of it. Iron Man, Endgame, the Avengers, Captain America: Winter Soldier, Daredevil Netflix series, Spiderman: No Way Home is at number 6. And now that's the first one from the Phase 4 and 5. And that one you can't even give full credit to Marvel Studios because it's a co-production with Sony. So, maybe we can give a certain amount of credit, but honestly, like that's the first movie too that featured a whole bunch more Sony characters. Sony Spider-Man, 2 Sony Spider-Mans, and all of the villains, or most of the villains, from their Spider-Man franchise. So, the best one from Phase 4 and 5, we can barely credit to Marvel. So that's not like the best sign so far. So, and it's going to be a while before we get to another one. Okay, at number 7, 8, 9, and 10, I've got Thor Ragnarok. I fucking hate Love and Thunder, but Thor Ragnarok is really wonderful. It does strike a great balance, and it is the right tone at the right time. I think they took this way too far in the What If series with Bro Thor, and they took it way too far in Love and Thunder with his just the non-serious tone. I can't stand it. But Thor Ragnarok, me and my family watched that movie over and over and over again. I don't know about you guys, but I love that movie. It's really enjoyable, and it's got stupid Hulk in it, and just wonderful. You miss Hulk in the Avengers movies, but you actually get some Hulk action in Thor Ragnarok, doing it right, and you get the Fenris Wolf, and there's really just some lovely things, gladiator arenas, and a lot of lovely little Easter eggs in there. And it's a weird little adaptation of a lot of different things from the comics, but it is an adaptation of a lot of the things from the comics, and a lot of it's done really well. I have a complaint or two, but I enjoy watching that movie, and every time I watch it, I enjoy it. At number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I've come to just really be charmed by this one over time. I know a lot of people don't like this one as much, but the intro alone just has me. And all the silliness at the end, there's obviously so much love that's gone into it, just with David Hasselhoff and him doing the music video, and it really, I love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I really just think that movie sets a tone and a vibe and an atmosphere of love and joy that carried over into other films and really was like continued and helped with the buzz of what made the Marvel Universe great, or at least the Marvel Universe that they were making in the films for a while. At number 9, I've got Avengers Infinity War. Obviously, it's a great one. I hate that we have this freaking blip situation left over from Endgame and the Infinity War. Fuck the blip. But Avengers Infinity War is a great flick. I really enjoy both of them. I think I've heard some people have some complaints about, I don't know, maybe it's Infinity War or Endgame, but I at a certain point, I am willing to accept things that are 90% good. and I stop focusing on the things that aren't so great about it. So I love all these ones, and I'll watch these ones over and over again, including the original Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 at number 10. All right, now we're going to get into 11 through 20. And again, we only got 2 in here. How long is it going to take us to get to the first one? At number 11, we've got Doctor Strange. At number 12, we've got Black Panther. Doctor Strange definitely has a lot of tones of Iron Man, but it's great. They copied themselves in a really good way, but it is a very unique story and a different visual story and whatnot with Doctor Strange. And the visuals are a huge part of these films, at least they should be. And the fact that they're not a component in so many of them recent ones is just like a demonstration of so many things. Black Panther at number 12 for me. I thought they did a really great job adapting the material. In general, again, 90% is good enough for me. Really loved the hell out of Black Panther. Thought Chadwick Boseman did a great job. And they honored the hell out of a lot of great aspects of the comics, especially the Christopher Priest ones that I grew up reading and loved so much. So that stuff, great for me. 11 and 12. And honestly, Doctor Strange was a character that didn't connect with me in the comics often as a character. Was a little wooden on the page. Black Panther did. I always loved Black Panther, but Doctor Strange wasn't a favorite character of mine. Cumberbatch, he did a great job. I think they hit it out of the park a second time here with Iron Man. They did a great job too with Peter Quill. Knocked it out of the park there. They've had a few wonderful bits of. Iron Man, Captain America, their recast of Hulk. I really think all great. Scarlett Johansson. So many perfect castings, honestly. And then we got at number 13. We have Captain America: Civil War for me. That pulls a lot of those pieces together. It's another great one. Enjoy the hell out of that movie. And at number 14, the first one from Marvel Studios, a Marvel Studios produced film. But again, I don't even want to give credit to Marvel Studios at this point, other than that they let him do it. It's the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, produced by James Gunn, that is on Disney Plus. Fucking A, man. If you haven't seen it, it's amazing. really, really great. There's there's an original song at the beginning, and I am a fucking hard audience for originals. It is great. He's got great fucking music taste. He really does. The volume 3 music is not as wonderful and as engaging as previous ones, but the whole movie has a melancholy tone about it, which I think is like him kind of saying goodbye to this crap after he was kind of, almost burnt at the stake when his old tweets came out and stuff and lost the job. I really think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I mean, I know it would have been different because the rumors about what the original story would have been very different. I really like what it would have been. But James Gunn is a genius in his own right. James Gunn doesn't need the Marvel Universe to be a genius. He really is. He's got the goods. And that's a scary thing sometimes when you add somebody like that into material that is already established by other geniuses. Is this genius going to honor the source material? And the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, it does honor pretty good the reboot of the franchise, which was very well liked and continued to be pressed to the audience because the audience was definitely down for it, and they did a great job bringing those characters to life. But a lot of the deeper adaptations of the cosmic characters that go back further and have more history have really gotten the short end of the stick, like Adam Warlock and stuff like that. And they have not exactly been doing any sort of direct adaptation of anything from the comics. And this is certainly not any sort of direct adaptation of anything in the comics. But Drax and fucking Mantis being adorable and going to kidnap Kevin Bacon as a Christmas present to Chris Pratt. The song at the beginning is incredible. The movie is really great. And it's short and sweet and a Christmas movie, and I highly recommend it. Again, my first offering from Marvel Studios, but again, I give credit to James Gunn over them. All right, at number 15, we have Ant-Man. I love Ant-Man. I don't know if you're a huge fan of the Ant-Man franchise. I love the Ant-Man franchise. Or I did. At number 16, we have Thor. Love Thor. Love Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Another great casting. At number 17, Jessica Jones, the Netflix series. They did a great job with it. I didn't love the adaptation, the casting of Kristen Ritter, even though she did a good job with the thing, just because Jessica Jones in the comics wasn't quite so pretty. And like a little bit of the story revolved around that. Like she felt like she was surrounded by all these pretty people and she didn't really feel like she was one of them. But Kristen Ritter, like, she's definitely one of the pretty people. I mean, like, I don't know if anybody noticed, but she's pretty adorable. Look at that cute little pointy nose of hers. She's like an elf person. So I don't know if her casting was necessarily the right one, but she did embody a version of the character who I find much more attractive. But I didn't have to find Jessica Jones attractive to really like that book. So I didn't really think that bringing attractiveness into the role of Jessica Jones, like this is the part of it that pisses me off, and it's like so sexist. This character was written as a not this glamorous character, and she was feeling out of the superhero world because she wasn't so glamorous. She still nabs Luke Cage. She's a cool chick. She's badass. There's a whole bunch of things to like about her. She's a great character. But of course, Hollywood felt the need to pretty her up, and like. There's all these other places where they're like, we need to make this character less pretty. Well, how about when it makes sense to have the character be less pretty, let them be less pretty and don't change it. It's just so stupid. And they do that a lot. Like, hey, we want to make Little Orphan Annie, but we want her to be really pretty. Whatever it is. Anyway, that's 17. Number 18 is What If, my second entry. What If? It's the animated entry. They really did a great job with the What If series. It's fucking awesome. A lot of it is compelling and super cool. Some of it is like cheesy and forgettable, but still fun. And there's an episode or two that I freaking despise. At least one that stars Bro Thor. And just Bro Thor is like a continuation of the fucking shitty ass Thor that we see in Thor Love and Thunder. It makes his character meaningless and lame. I hate it. And he shows up in the fucking finale episodes, which are really great other than the fact that he's there for the most part. But What If was great. It was really, really awesome. Just skip the freaking Bro Thor episode. it's awesome. I highly recommend it. That's on 18, and that's me saying I liked What If better than Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I liked it better than Iron Man 2 at number 20. But I like Ant-Man and the Wasp a lot, and I like Iron Man 2 a lot. I like that one was like a low on people's list for a long time, but came to rise, I think, for a lot of people, and for me too. I really still bummed out that Don Cheadle took over the role, because I think other dude whose name escaping me right now, I don't know, he brought something different there that I was excited about for the War Machine character. I think he brought something similar to what Robert Downey Jr. brought to Iron Man. And I was excited to see him as War Machine, because War Machine also wasn't a character that had necessarily like connected with me great. And I hadn't read like a lot of the classic War Machine introduction stories, but still, like when I had seen him show up places, he didn't seem to have a character that really stuck with me. But Terrence Howard, his portrayal of Rhodey, I thought was really great. So I was bummed out by that at the time. But Iron Man 2, I think is pretty fucking awesome. So that's number 20. All right. So now as we get into, we're through the greatest Marvel Universe movies of all time: Iron Man, Endgame, Infinity War, The Avengers, Winter Soldier, and maybe I'm missing some for you, but these are my favorites. That's my top 20 of all time. And now we're going to get into the ones that I like a little less than the rest of these ones. And, going into the top 25, I guess we'll say. So in the top 25, we've got two from the latest slate of films. 21 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I enjoyed very much. It just was like a somber ending to things and just kind of made me a little sad or whatever. It didn't necessarily like make me so excited to go back and watch it again. But I do think it's a really good movie, and like that one. It's number 21 on my list. Number 22, Avengers Age of Ultron. I really like Avengers Age of Ultron. I know a lot of people kind of hate it or whatever, but I thought they told the story, they moved the pieces forward, they did an adequate job with it. It wasn't great, but they did honor the books and do the things that I wanted to see, where pieces were continuing to be put in the right places to set up things that I would like to see in the future, like something I'll get to in a second. At 23, I got Spider-Man Homecoming. I really like Spider-Man Homecoming. But none of Spider-Man Homecoming or the next one, Far From Home, none of them are Spider-Man comics. They're a great youthful Spider-Man. They're kind of Ultimate Spider-Man-ish a little bit in some way or whatever. But they're great. I love Tom Holland. I really enjoy him. I'm still into all the films in the Marvel Universe that I generally love. For the most part, but I definitely watch it less than, sometimes I'll break out some of the other Spider-Man movies, and I really like the Andrew Garfield ones, actually, even though they suck on all levels. All right, number 24, it's Captain America: The First Avenger. I quite like this movie, but I think it could have been better. I'm a huge Captain America fan, and there was just so much about it that I thought could have been better. I thought they should have had Bucky's send-off be better and more important, and I've seen that story told better. I think they did it as like some sort of like kind of afterthought, and there were certain aspects of the story that I didn't think were developed as well as they could have been, but in general, I do really like Captain America: The First Avenger. I just don't think it's like the next level Marvel stuff. It's not my favorite Marvel stuff, but it's great. Also great, but ends really bad. And honestly, here as we get into the 25 range, this is like where we start to get in stuff that disappointed me. I mean, like really, like Guardians of the Galaxy, all of these things disappointed me, as we get past 20. I can say that's like a big consistent thing, like disappointing but 25 for me is WandaVision, and I really liked WandaVision. The end was not satisfying. I hated all the places where things were set up. They could have set it up great without having Doctor Strange show up at the end, which I know was like a weird fear that they had. Letting Wanda get away with this was a big deal. There was so many different things about it that just ended up being not awesome. And I thought it was very slow. And it was slow because it wasn't very well written. Like, it was a sitcom parody. And you can do that, and that can be great. But your sitcom parody has to be actually great. Like, it actually has to be funny. They should have studied the sitcoms they were basing this shit on and took the best jokes, the jokes that really made them laugh, out of these pre-existing sitcoms that they were mimicking. But they clearly didn't really do that. And it just was a little slow and a little boring. But there was a lot to like about it. But then it didn't stick the landing. At number 26 and going into 30, it's 26 to 30. These are all Marvel Phase 4 and 5 projects that I liked, and most of them didn't stick the landing. Loki kind of stuck the landing. I mean, it didn't stick the landing the first time. It kind of stuck the landing with the second season. Even though the second season had like 2 episodes that seemed like they were just wasting my fucking time. And just in general, I never really wanted to see a Loki series about him as a time traveler learning to be a good guy. And it just like, this did not scratch any itch that I had, even though I think it was done well. And if it wasn't called Loki, I would have liked it more. But still, it's pretty low level science fiction time travel stuff. You know, like, so much cooler shit has been done in that space. And like, it's doing some cool stuff, but it's not blowing my mind. It really gets by on the strength of Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, and now they got I forget what the actor's name is. It's a little hard to pronounce. The guy from Goonies, who is in Everything Everywhere All at Once, who's in it. He's really great. But let's see. We got number 27, Hawkeye, which I was really digging until the last episode. Again, kind of harmless fun, but you know, they did a great job with the Kate Bishop character. And in general, I was really getting into this, especially at the end. It's like, they're going to bring in Kingpin. This is amazing. I couldn't stand their depiction of Echo. She was a soft character and very compelling and interesting and beautiful. And the person that they cast for the part is really kind of butch. And I don't mean visually too, because she's just making like a real sourpuss all the time. And David Mack, who was the artist who created her, she was always more sort of pouty and very feminine, and then she would kick ass, but she was definitely a feminine kind of character. So I did hate what they did with her, and then I hated even more what they did with her and Kingpin by the end of the season of Hawkeye. So I mean, that one really tanks it, and I fucking I hate that so much, even though I like so much of the other stuff. Number 28, we've got Werewolf by Night, which is like harmless and fun. I liked it in black and white. I hear it's not as good in color, but it's really just harmless is what I would call it, and fun. 29, The Eternals. I like The Eternals okay. I mean, you know, look where it is on the list, but I mean, like, I liked it okay. I thought it was kind of harmless fun. I might watch it again in the future. I might watch any of these guys that I've listed above this again in the future. I have watched the next one on the list, 30, Black Widow, again. There's a lot to like about Black Widow. I think it's generally charming. I don't think it's great. And so many of the critiques that everybody puts on it, I agree with, but I do think that it is serviceable. And I love Florence Pugh. I think she's great. Love the dude from Stranger Things, the Hellboy. He's great. You know, I think it could have been better on so many levels. So many levels. I think all this stuff could have been better on so many levels. I mean, starting with, let's see. We got Ant-Man. We got Thor. We got Jessica Jones, Netflix. I mean, I kind of think they could be a little better, sure, but I mean, nothing crazy. But I generally think that these are good shows and stuff, and you know, like Ant-Man and the Wasp. I really generally like Ant-Man and the Wasp. Okay, I like the Wasp as a boss ass bitch because she's a good counter to Ant-Man, as played by Paul Rudd. Like, I don't think all the women should be played like the Wasp, which they are, but I think that the Wasp and Ant-Man, I think that dynamic really works. And Iron Man 2, I love all these ones. You know, 21 on down, like we got things we could fix. So at number 30, we got Black Widow. Okay, now we get into 31 through 40. and 31 through 40 contains is half Marvel Phase 4 and 5, or 5 or 6 of these. So I've got 31, Iron Man 3, which has gone up for me over time. I really didn't like it at the time. I thought it was really boring. Still think it's kind of boring, but I do like it okay. It's not a bad movie. 32, it's just not enough of like a, doesn't feel comic booky enough, I guess is the word, comic booky. They make it like it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. Make it feel more comic booky and do a good job with it. And number 32, Thor: The Dark World, which I find unoffensive but not great. 33, we've got Spiderman: Far From Home, which I find unoffensive but not great. But there's some good things about it, Mysterio and stuff like that. There's some good things about Thor: The Dark World, practical effects, stuff like that. And all the Iron Man armors at the end of Iron Man 3. So all these movies have some like redeeming qualities. 34 is my first from Marvel Phase 4 and 5. It's Doctor Strange 2, which does have some redeeming qualities. Just his girlfriend showing up at the end, Clea, and Charlize Theron looking freaking awesome in that costume, and him finally standing beside somebody that like looks the part for a Doctor Strange story, somebody who looks like they belong in that world. Fuck yes. That's awesome. And there's some parts of Doctor Strange 2 that are pretty cool. And things that apparently weren't directed by Sam Raimi that are very Sam Raimi-ish that they added to the movie that are awesome. Doctor Strange 2 was a major disappointment for me. I was really fucking bummed. I still love Cumberbatch, and there's aspects and pieces of the movie that look nice and that I like, but disappointing. I wish that it turned out to be Nightmare. I wish that they hadn't fucked up the landing of WandaVision, because like so much of why this movie sucks too is about not just you've heard me talk about how much I hate America Chavez in this movie. She's not a character who associates with Doctor Strange, and you don't put her with Doctor Strange because they don't look good together. They look terrible together. Scarlet Witch, they maybe have some history in the comics and whatnot and are good characters to pit against each other, but the way they ended WandaVision and then the way they begin this thing and bring Wanda back in and the way they handle Wanda and handle so many of these things, Doctor Strange 2 is one of my first major disappointments of Marvel Phase 4 or 5. Next up, 35 is my other Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I was largely enjoying. There were some things that they were doing that I wasn't necessarily digging the execution of. I didn't love the group of people who were the flag smashers. I didn't love how they were being depicted, and it was very heavy-handed. But by the end of that show, I wanted to break my television. I mean, like the last episode of that show when Falcon's walking around going like, "Do better, Senator." I'm like, just like, kill me now. It was so awful. And like he carries this clearly freaking kind of mentally deranged protester lady out, her body out, when he was friends with Sharon Carter. And I know in the next scene they show Sharon to be a bad guy, but Sharon, like, he knew her. They had a relationship. This other lady is the criminal that he was pursuing. It's like some crazy shit that went on at the end of that fucking show. It was just like stupid, so stupid, so on so many levels, so many things. There was a lot of the different things that was done in there that was stupid. And I wanted to like that one a lot, and I was disappointed. So let's see what else we got here. We're getting towards the end, but we still have a bunch more. We still have like a dozen. We got at number 36 for me, and I'm putting it here because I've seen enough episodes to get the gist of it, but I don't really. I didn't enjoy it enough to subject myself to it. And that was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought was like a serviceable TV series. I thought it was comparable to like a Flash on the CW that my daughter loves, but I really I can't stomach the acting on those shows and some of those things, so I didn't watch very much of it. But I did watch some of it, and it was enjoyable. It was better than everything beneath it on this list, starting with number 37, Shang-Chi, which if Shang-Chi wasn't called Shang-Chi, I might have enjoyed it more. Shang-Chi should have been a rooted, awesome kung fu movie. It was some fucking I don't know. It felt like a Disney movie. like this, like the most badass karate man on the planet. And like, here he is, and dragons and flouty things, and like he's supposed to be a street level martial artist, and like there's so many cool things that they could have fucking done with that character, and that's what they did. And like it's okay, but like that's never how I pictured that actor's personality. That's not how I was reading Shang-Chi in my comics. He's based on Bruce Lee. The Shang-Chi is a badass, and they put him in a buddy flick with fucking Aquafina. Tone deaf, man. Tone deaf decisions. Movie sucks. Number 38 is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which, oh God, I mean, the only reason why it's not further down on the list is because I still love Paul Rudd, and I still like Evangeline Lilly and their dynamic and stuff. But now he's surrounded by boss bitches, and his daughter's bossing him around kind of thing. And like, I don't like that at all. He's a really good dad. He should have a nice relationship with her. She should, like, they were giving her reasons to resent him. And like, I fucking hate that movie. I really, like, I don't think I'm ever going to watch it again. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. They ruin MODOK as a character, like, and in ruining MODOK as a character, they also ruin Darren Cross as a character, the bad guy from the first movie, the Yellow Jacket character, who I thought was a successful villain for them, and they made him look like an idiot, and didn't do Kang any favors. Like, I mean, seriously, ugh, that movie fucking sucked ass. 39, Moon Knight. I love Moon Knight. I love that character. I wanted to love this show so bad, but like nothing happens in it, and it was just kind of goofy and silly, and I don't know what comics they were basing it on. I've never read a Moon Knight comic that was so silly and stupid. Just so much of it was stupid. It's got fucking ends with kaijus fighting in the background, giant Egyptian gods. Like, that's not really what Moon Knight's about. Yeah, I Moon Knight, not a good one. Not a good one. Not a good one. Right next to Moon Knight on my not a good one list is number 40, Hulk, the one that started it all. I fucking hate the Ed Norton Hulk. I think it's just boring as fuck. I think it just retreads all the most boring and like tried and true and already well-known aspects of Hulk as he was depicted on the television show, while bringing nothing to it. They're just like, let's just establish the television show, and like, and they just their design of Abomination is an abomination. I mean, it's fucking awful looking. They tried to make it look a little better on the She-Hulk episode recently. It looks a little better. It's fucking awful. Just awful across the board. Fucking hate the Hulk thing. Quite enjoy the Mark Ruffalo Hulk, although his smart Hulk has left something to be desired. All right, now we're getting into the final 6 here on the list. The bottom 6. What are the bottom 6 for me for all these things? Well, number 41 is Luke Cage. Again, I think that character has so much potential, and the Luke Cage Netflix series was so boring I couldn't get through it. Granted, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. was sort of a similar thing, but I did get through the episodes that I did go to watch, and I just knew that it wasn't exactly for me, but Luke Cage just similarly felt like a boring soap opera kind of thing, and Luke Cage deserves so much better. At number 42, we've got Captain Marvel. One of the first major departures of the Marvel Universe canon was Captain Marvel and her origin story, and this broke the, I think I had this right above Hulk because I was like, well, I guess it was entertaining, but it just so infuriates me on so many levels. I just hate seeing the story, especially now. Like, I hate it more because of where it goes, and I'm not watching Secret Invasion, and I'm not enjoying this storyline. I know that it's going to places that I'm not going to enjoy. So even more so now, this is where all those storylines begin, and it's gotten lower on my list. So number 42 for me, Captain Marvel. Number 43, Wakanda Forever. Wakanda Forever is just boring as fuck, sad as fuck, and they ruin Namor. And they ruin Atuma as well. I don't think they did a good job like giving him any definitive characteristic to make it like he had been introduced in any way, shape, or form to begin with. They introduced like a lot of characters, but it's just like none of it matters. I just really hated that movie. I just did not care for it at all. I was just like, this just makes me sad. and I don't like where this is going from here. What now? It's going to be passed to his son. And they could have given us a climatic battle between the Black Panther and somebody and left his death a little bit more open-ended. There's so many things that they could have done. I don't like how they handled his death. Black Panther is one of my favorite characters. Black Panther is number, 12 on my list. And I mean, and I really love that movie. And I love the comics more, but as a character, he's one of my favorite characters of all time. And I really want to see him done well. And, he's hardly featured in any way, shape, or form in Wakanda Forever. And what is there is just meandering nonsense that I don't give a shit about. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Okay. We've got 2 left from the Marvel Phase 4 and 5, and 1 from Marvel TV that I don't know exactly where it falls, but number 44, The Inhumans, Black Bolt without a mask, all these depictions of the character. I love The Inhumans. Paul Jenkins' Inhumans is one of my first comic book loves. It was a 12-issue miniseries. It's so great. It's drawn by Jay Lee, who did promotional images for the TV show, the movie or TV movie. I don't know what it was, but they were clearly aware of that shit being cool, and they did a terrible job adapting it. Oh my God, awful. That shit is good. It really is cool. The atmosphere that was created in the Inhumans, it was very dark and very cool, and they just did it all wrong, completely wrong. Fuck that Inhuman show. I really hated it. Okay. Continuing on to the last 2 on the list. 1 comes from Marvel Studios, the film division, and 1 from Marvel TV. And 1 is terrible, and the other is fucking still worse than the other. Number 45, you got Thor, Love, and Thunder. Thor, Love, and Thunder just makes a mockery of like everything I fucking hold dear, as far as the tone switch, like a real firm pivot into silliness, depriving the characters of the richness that they deserve, the richness of fucking Jane Foster. Like these female characters that they want to get and they want to shine and they want to have their proper representation. She has a much better story in the comic books, and she's being deprived of a really epic Shakespearean death and cool. Like there's ways to tell those stories and make it fucking awesome and epic. And holy shit. Thor, Love, and Thunder is just stupid and frivolous and meaningless and all the things. I do not believe I will ever watch it again until one day I'm like flipping channels or something, or I'm really bored and I want to go back and see if I hate it as much 20 years later as I do now. But oh God, fuck that movie. And fuck worse than fuck that movie, fuck She-Hulk. Like seriously, She-Hulk at number 46. Last on my list. That movie butchers the character, clearly did not engage in any reading of the character, so they didn't know that there was anything good there to honor in the first place. Just did whatever the fuck it wanted to do with the character. What it did is just like petty and stupid, goes directly against the fans, attacks the fans, is a complete abandonment of the audience in every way, shape, and form in a pursuit of some imaginary audience that they think exists that wants to fucking watch a She-Hulk thing if it's not being signed off on by the people who actually give a shit about a She-Hulk thing. Like seriously, that shit is the worst. I mean, like, how many fuck this movies do I have? Like how many of the Marvel universe, okay, let's see. Because I want to say, before we went off the rails with Marvel phases 4 and 5, I would have told you that there was, let's see, I wouldn't say fuck that movie. 1, 2, 3. Well, I won't quite say fuck this movie to those either. I wasn't offended by any of that either. Okay, so there were 2 things that I would say fuck this movie to. And that's Hulk and Captain Marvel from the previous phases. Fuck those movies. Other than that, Like, I don't find anything offensive. I found, Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World and Spider-Man Far From Home a little boring, let's say. But now, since that time, like straight up, fuck these movies. Doctor Strange 2, The End of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Shang-Chi, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Moon Knight. Like I said, Luke Cage Netflix series, I just turned it off. Wakanda Forever, Thor: Love and Thunder, She-Hulk. Fuck all of this stuff. Right above that, I've got Black Widow. It's not quite a fuck that movie for me. It's not quite a fuck that for Eternals and Hawkeye and Loki. The last episode, I get there a little bit, in little pieces. But there are bits of it that I do like, that is good enough to keep me invested and isn't destroying the story so much that I can't progress and see a way forward, that I might still continue to enjoy things the way I've been enjoying things at the top of this list. But holy shit, man. So much of this stuff, but by the time Thor: Love and Thunder ends with him and his daughter, by the time She-Hulk ends with them going after all the men as like a fucking metaphor for like in the fandom, by the time Wakanda Forever ends and they're introducing his kid and they never really gave, T'Challa a proper send-off. By the time Moon Knight ends and he never does anything fucking badass or cool. By the time Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania ends and you just don't give a shit about anything that's happened and you're not excited for the future with all these Kangs, or Shang-Chi ends and you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? That was not what I expected at all. Just like, seriously, this phase of the Marvel cinematic whatever has been lackluster. And what do we have coming up, like on the slate? What's left? Echo. And I told you how I felt about her depiction in the previous series. The character is a great character, but they're not depicting her like her character. So it's a She-Hulk situation again. Apparently it's really gritty, this Echo series. Like, I don't give two shits about it. I don't know about you. I'm not going to watch it. And then what else do we have? Oh, and by the way, they've been holding on to it. It's finished, and they haven't released it. That's a bad sign. It's probably not going to be very good. And apparently they've cut it down. A lot of these things, they get cut down when they don't have a lot of faith in it. They've also been holding on to these next two shows, which I don't have any interest in watching. The Agatha Harkness show, I don't even know what the subtitle is because they've changed the subtitle for the show multiple times. But Agatha gets it done, whatever Agatha's going to do. I don't care about Agatha. There's no comic books based on Agatha. She shows up in some places and stuff, but like her having her own series, like why? The next one they've got is Ironheart. Again, it's done. They haven't released it. Ironheart's never really landed in the comics. I think the place that she's landed the best maybe is on a team with Kamala Khan and the other champions who are younger than the Young Avengers, which they fucked up setting up things for the Young Avengers movie or whatever, which apparently gets set up at the end of the Marvels in a cheat scene, an extra scene. But so there's these three. These are done and these are waiting. I'm not going to watch any of them. I don't know if you guys are planning on watching them. I'm not watching any of them. Then we got Deadpool 3. I will happily watch Deadpool 3. I'm hoping to high heaven that it is not just great, but fucking phenomenal. I don't really know what to expect from it ultimately, what we're going to get from it ultimately, but maybe it'll be fucking phenomenal. I'm really hoping. I believe it'll be at least good. But we will see. We will see. And then what else? We got three other things on the docket. We've got Captain America New World Order, which is apparently finished, and test audiences hated it. Apparently they had a Donald Trump stand-in and very divisive politics going on throughout the whole film. And now they are panicking and doing major reshoots to the film. So, okay. Because I think that if they don't handle that movie right, I think it'll definitely crash and burn. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier already just did not stick its landing for those exact reasons. So if they're doubling down on continuing that sort of weird, putting in these new world politics instead of giving us some escapist entertainment that we can enjoy and elevating the Falcon and Winter Soldier in ways that would make us more interested in them as leading men, these are the things they need to be focused on. it's like, it's not a political statement. It's not time to do that. It's time to do a good Captain America story. Please. The last two, we've got Daredevil Born Again, the TV series, which we've talked about a bunch on the show. They fired all of their showrunner people because they saw half the series had been produced, like something like 8 or 9 episodes, and they shelved them. They're going to try to use some of the footage, but they brought in new showrunners. Again, they didn't bring in the right showrunners. They brought in the Punisher Netflix producers when they should have brought in the Daredevil Netflix producers. I don't understand what the fuck is wrong with you, Marvel. Tone deaf, tone deaf, tone deaf, tone deaf, tone deaf. But whatever. So we'll see how that one goes down. But my suspicion is when you have a series that is this popular, and you're not necessarily bringing in the right people, the odds are not that it's going to be better than the predecessor. I'm very nervous about this for them. I love Daredevil. He's one of my favorite characters in comics, one of the books that I've followed the most closely in comics, and I want to see him done well. He still really has not been done the justice, and the great stories that are there to be told about the character have not been told. So I would love to see these stories told. I don't want to see them screwed up. Please, 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 Marvel, don't fuck this shit. And then finally, we've got the What If Season 2, which I was initially excited about when I wrote it down. I was like, oh, cool. Well, at least there's like a light at the end of the tunnel. What If Season 2, that's in my top 20. Like, I really do love that bit. But the big problem with What If Season 2 is What If Season 2 is coming on the heels of Phase 4 and 5 that we just talked about. And Phase 4 and 5 fucking sucked ass. So if if Season 2 of What If continues forward the stories from these phases that we don't give two shits about, oh man, I'm very fearful that at least numerous episodes of What If are going to immediately go in the trash can, because they're just going to be the stories we don't want to see continued. If they're smart, they'll focus on the characters and the things that we would like to see continued, bring back, Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. or whoever it might be to do something that would be interesting to us. What If is a great concept. It's a great place for wonderful ideas and wonderful writing. I don't have a lot of faith, though, that they're capable of doing that anymore. Do you? I don't know. Let me know. Write me at jesseblaze@jessesnyder.com. You can hit me up at Coolest Geek JBS on the Twitters. And that's it for me on this Saturday episode of the show. I am your passionate geek culture commentator, Jesse Blaze Snyder, the Coolest Geek Alive. And I do hope that you will write me. I look forward to hearing from you. I love you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it. The love for the show keeps growing. And, people, if you guys could take the time to write a comment. That's been seems like a hard thing that I've been connecting for people. If you could actually stop someday when, because I know a lot of you guys listen and you're not by your computer right now or whatever, but if you could try to remember for the health of the channel and us to keep growing, it would be great for us to get more comments. Our listenership is not really reflected in the amount of comments and interaction, I guess, that we have in some ways, even though there are so many of you. So we really appreciate you listening. Thank you so much for joining us once again. And I hope you'll join me next Wednesday and again next Saturday for another fabulous episode of The Coolest Geek Alive.
It's my favorite
Later.
part. Isn't that heavy? I'll play that. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Coolest alive. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Stay with your tribe. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it out. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Making you shout.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snyder. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living the shit. My voice is gonna be fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right or text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. Straight to the top. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see. You'll all see.